and thank you for joining us on the Person to Person Network. Welcome to Profiles in STEM. Our career series will feature an amazing STEM professional who is shaping lives and building the future. I'm your host, Katie Culbert, and if you haven't already done so, please leave a like and subscribe to our network. Joining me today, we have a very special woman in STEM, Dr. Abbie Watnik. Dr. Watnik is the head of the Optical Physics branch in the Optical Sciences division at the Naval Research Laboratory. She manages personnel and programs with a diverse research portfolio of basic and applied optical physics, with topics in optical nanomaterials, laser-based imaging and sensing, quantum optics, and semiconductor optoelectronics. Dr. Watnik is also the recipient of numerous awards, including the 2019 Sigma Chi Young Investigator Award, the 2017 and 2018 ARPAD Awards, and the 2016 Dolores M. Eder Top Scientists and Engineers Award for Emergent Scientist Investigators. This award recognizes Department of the Navy scientists who have made significant contributions to their field. Dr. Watnik, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Watnik, let's go back in time. Can you pinpoint a particular moment when you decided to pursue a career in STEM, and more specifically in optics research?
That's a good question. So my undergraduate degree is in electrical engineering, and I have a master's and PhD in optics. So if we go back to high school, why did I pick electrical engineering as a major? That's a good question. Neither of my parents were engineers, and so I did not know much about engineering whatsoever. But I was good at math and science in high school and said, let me pick something hard. Like, I'd rather start hard and work down from there. And I really didn't know anything about engineering. I just randomly picked electrical engineering and said, let's try this. I figured it was hard and I like doing hard things. So that's how I picked electrical engineering as a major. Not very scientific, I guess. But from there, optics was more strategic. When I was an undergraduate, I had to do lab classes, and once my lab partner did not show up on time to do my lab with me, and so I didn't start without him. I waited and I was roaming the halls looking for him, and there was a poster that said you can do research for an internship for the summer. I said, oh, maybe I want an internship for the summer. Looked into it. It was from the National Science Foundation Research Experience for Undergraduates. And you get to spend 10 weeks at a different university across the country and do research. And so I said, you know what? I'm interested in doing optics. Like, that was a kind of subfield of electrical engineering, and chose that. Did that internship, and it just opened my eyes to what research was about and really how you could do things that nobody else had done before. And so that sold me on optics, and that's why I decided to pursue a master's and PhD going forward from there. As a sophomore undergraduate said, this is what I want to do.
Thank you so much for sharing that memory with us. It's kind of inspirational on how you didn't know exactly what you wanted to do, but you knew you wanted to do something challenging. And through almost by luck, you found about the research opportunity and you've just found your passion in life.
Yes.
So after obtaining your doctorate, you have spent the majority of your career with the Naval Research Laboratory. Can you explain the key differences between a research career in the military versus civilian or academic life?
That's a great question. So, one thing I do want to clarify from the start is that I am a civilian working for the Navy. So I did not do ROTC in college. I have not been active duty military. And so interestingly, I did not know this before working for the Navy, that the Navy also employs civilians that are not active duty military. And so a lot of times when you think of people in the military, you think of them having to move to different bases and go be deployed. That's not what I do at all. I have worked, like you said, most of my career at the Naval Research Laboratory here in Washington, D.C., and I work with other civilian scientists and engineers. And so people can spend a lifetime or a career here at NRL doing science and technology. And so one reason why this model exists is Thomas Edison was the person that had the idea that the military, and specifically the Navy, should have a research laboratory made up of civilian researchers to do research, specifically with Navy interests in mind, but have them be civilians. And so we don't rotate out. We sustain a research career here, and really build upon fundamental research, looking at things for the long term. And so it's really a unique environment where we do care about what does the Navy need, you know, anywhere from a year from now to 5 years from now to 20 years from now. And so we're thinking about what technology and science can we build and develop for the next Navy, basically. And so, I did not realize that when I started that there were civilians that work for the Navy, but it's been a great job, and a lot of fun.
Thank you for clarifying that specifically that you work for the Navy and military, but you're not serving currently. I think a lot of people can be easily confused by that, and
Hmm.
in a way, it can kind of limit their opportunities in the future. So
Right.
thank you for clarifying those differences and for that little fun fact about Thomas Edison and
Hmm.
how he created this position. So you currently serve as the branch head in the optical physics branch of the NRO. So without getting too technical, can you tell me about what you do and share some specifics about your duties in this role?
Sure. So I came to the Naval Research Laboratory as a research physicist. Despite having a degree in engineering, the job title here is research physicist. As I advanced in that job, so I worked at a lab bench building optical systems using lasers and really spending most of my days in the laboratory, designing and taking experimental data and then analyzing it and then writing papers and presenting it at conferences. That was my day-to-day job. Then I became a section head. And a section head manages a group of people that do similar research, to myself. And in that role, there's a lot of projects that we work on all the same time. And so I was in charge of some project, other people were in charge of other projects. But I managed not only the research projects, but also the personnel. And as branch head, now I manage a larger group of scientists working in a wide, diverse area. So in the introduction, you mentioned optical nanomaterials and semiconductor lasers and advanced imaging systems and quantum optics. And so we do a lot of different technology. And so the people that I work with and who work for me are chemists, engineers, physicists, mathematicians, computer scientists. So a lot of different backgrounds that everybody has, but a lot of important expertise that we can work together on different projects. And so my day job, I do spend time thinking about a lot of technical problems, but I also do a lot of kind of management type issues. So when you think of a small business, you think of, how do you handle finances and the buildings and the labs and the people and hiring people. And so I do a lot more than just science these days, that's for sure.
Thank you for sharing about your responsibilities and your duties. You definitely sound like you have a lot to juggle, especially with all the people that you work with, but it sounds like a really fun and exciting job that you have and very important work. So, can you provide our audience with some of the highlights regarding the research you are currently conducting?
Sure, sure. So my background is in what's called active imaging. So I usually use a laser to be able to see the world. So you may have your cell phone or a camera and you take pictures with that. A lot of the things that I do is using lasers to be able to see things. So I'm most interested, one area that I have a special interest in these days is being able to see in what's called degraded environments. So you might think of that as when you are driving your car and it's foggy, it's really difficult to see what's in front of you. I want to make it so we can see in foggy conditions. I want to make it so we can see in underwater, murky water that is really difficult to see, or to be able to see through sandstorms. So all of these environments are really challenging in terms of not only for our eyes to see, but also for our cameras to see. And so I use lasers to be able to image and be able to see through those really challenging environments.
Thank you for describing that for us. It would be really cool to see in the future how these things that you're currently researching could impact our everyday lives, especially with like how you mentioned with the fog and driving through it. That's like
Yeah.
not really fun to drive through in the morning.
Exactly, exactly. And then in the future, we will have autonomous cars that are going to drive themselves. And so we really want the cars to be able to drive in those challenging conditions, because
Yeah,
it's
I
going to
don't think
rely on a bunch of sensors to drive that car. And you want to say, I still want to be able to drive my car when it's foggy outside and not say, uh-oh, the sensor is not going to work. I only can drive when it's clear and not rainy and not snowy. We want to be able to drive in all conditions.
yes, that's a great point. So, Dr. Watnik, I'm sure you've had the opportunity to work with cutting edge technology. So, what's the most exciting or innovative piece of technology that you have been able to work with?
That's a great question. One thing that I really like about the technology, and this may not be specific, but I like to see how we can interface hardware with software. And I call that computational imaging. So a lot of times, for example, in your cell phone these days, if you take a picture, you might be able to alter the picture after the effect. My new phone has this thing called Magic Eraser, where I can take things in the picture that I didn't want there and erase them out of the picture. Um, and so how does that happen? Well, we have to be able to develop things in conjunction with each other. So we want to be able to design hardware that can support the software end of things. And so I really like that aspect of like cool cutting edge technology, designing hardware that takes specific data that then when we process it and do that in conjunction with image processing or software, we can get better images out because we've jointly designed the hardware and the software together.
Thank you for describing that to us and kind of giving us insight into your corner of the world and the things that you get to work with. I think that's really interesting and cool. And everything you've just described sounds so amazing. So, how do you determine exactly what projects you pursue in research?
That is a great question. So, working for the Naval Research Laboratory, we do need to have a Navy mission associated with what we're doing. So, how does this help the sailor at sea? How does this help our ships? We need to think about what is the impact of what we are doing going to mean for the Navy at large. And so we really do think about how does our technology help people? And so a lot of times you can go in the lab and you can be thinking, oh, in my day to day, I'm just, taking data and you kind of might miss the impact. But when it comes down to it, we really need to concentrate on how is this going to help the Navy and the sailors in the Navy? And so, when it comes down to what research I want to work on, I want to like getting my undergraduate degree. I want to work on something that's hard. I want to work on something nobody else has done. That's important. But then what impact is it going to make and what are the contributions the research is going to have down the road?
Thank you for giving that insight into the decision-making process. And I'm sure as part of the process on thinking about how it's going to impact the men and women who serve our country and even just the people who are living in our country, I'm sure it helps make everything that you're researching, make it have a positive impact on yourself. So, Dr. Watnik, we've explored many, many areas today, and I can tell you are constantly on the go and are juggling things. So, is there one last final piece of advice you would like to share with our audience as they explore STEM and careers in STEM?
That's a great question. I did not even realize this was a career opportunity. And so I would definitely encourage your audience to consider careers in government. I wouldn't necessarily even know that this was a career in government when I took this position. So careers in the military or careers in the government, you can be a civilian, and there are several opportunities and ways that you can get connected now. So we take on high school students, undergraduate students, graduate students, postdoctoral students as interns over the summer. They come work for us. So not only here at the Naval Research Laboratory, but many Department of Defense sites are great opportunities to kind of get your feet wet and see what it's like. And, that wasn't what I did as an undergraduate, but it is so exciting to come see the work that we do and just have an opportunity to see what kind of work can be done and say, this is something I'm super interested in, and I could pursue a career in this area.
Thank you so much for sharing that advice. I hope our audience takes that to heart, especially with searching for those opportunities that are available, like the what's it called, internship opportunities inside the Naval Research Laboratory and other government facilities. I think that's something that you all should keep an eye out for, and hopefully we'll have some of those opportunities linked down below, so make sure you check them out. I would like to thank my special guest, Dr. Abbie Watnik. Dr. Watnik, you're a truly inspirational woman in STEM, and it was truly an honor to be speaking with you today. Thank you so much for spending time with us. And to our viewers, please join us again for another exciting episode and another remarkable STEM professional. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our network. You've been listening to Profiles in STEM. Thank you. Katie Culbert signing off.